Hello, everyone. Hello, everyone. Thank you for being here this evening. I am super excited. I am Roquita Johnson. I am a certified world-class speaking coach, an award-winning speaker, and I am an author. And I am here with someone who I have known for many years now. If my audience is not familiar with her, you will be familiar with her this evening. This is my dear friend and fellow certified world-class speaking coach, Beverly Howard. Bevy, you want to say hi to my audience? And I'm sure those who are watching you.
Hello. Hi, Roquita. Hi, everybody.
Thank you for being here this evening. I'm excited about our topic this evening.
I'm ready, girl. I'm ready. Come on. Let's do this.
So we're going to have a professional interview tonight, but because this is my good friend, you might hear a little bit of laughter. That's just how we are when we are in our off time and we're talking about public speaking and whatever else is going on in our life. So get ready for a lively conversation. That's all I'm going to tell you. Get ready for a lively conversation. Now, this conversation came about because Beverly and I are both in the Toastmasters International organization. We've both been in it for many years now. And Beverly has coached fellow Toastmasters who have competed, coached them to top level success of the competition, of the international speech contest. And I have also seen the other side of the game. I've been a competitor myself. I've competed in different contests and I have made it to the very top level of the humorous speech contest for Toastmasters, which is the district level. That's the highest that goes to. With the international level, you go all the way to the convention that's held in August. This year it's held in Philadelphia. So we're going to have a new world champion of public speaking that will be crowned this summer. So this is contest season right now as we speak. That's my point. This right now, this time right here, you have members all over the world who are competing. So division contests are most likely being held right now. And shortly, everyone who made it past division, they're going to be going to compete at their district level. And from there, we got other levels that it goes to. It's the quarter regional,
regional,
the
and
semifinals, right?
semifinals.
And then we have the top people who will compete on the stage at the convention, which again will be held in Philadelphia this year. So this is why Beverly and I wanted to have this conversation because it's appropriate right now. This is the time of year, and whatever tips that we can give, tips, strategies, recommendations, we know it'll be very helpful for all those who are competing. Beverly and I love the art of public speaking. We are always talking about it, and we'll look at videos and we'll analyze speakers. Like it's just something that's in us. So we are excited to talk about this topic this evening. So before we even get into the meat of our discussion, my goal is I want to keep this to an hour. I got some good questions. We'll see where the conversation takes us, but I do have questions I'm going to ask Beverly to get her thoughts on. I will give my 2 cents as well, but let me give her a proper introduction to everyone. Beverly Howard is a dynamic public speaking and presentation skills expert who empowers professionals to craft and deliver impactful presentations that drive real results. Through her engaging and interacting workshops and customized coaching, she helps executives, entrepreneurs, and rising leaders shine on stage, exuding confidence, charisma, and authenticity. A certified world-class speaking coach, Beverly trained under the Toastmasters 1999 world champion of public speaking, Craig Valentine, and marketing guru, Mitch Meyerson. I went through that world-class speaking coaching certification program as well. So yay, we're both at school. In 2012, Beverly played a pivotal role in helping a fellow Toastmaster take first place in the semifinals of the World Championship of Public Speaking. She is also an international best-selling co-author of Put Me in Coach, Top Strategies for the Game of Life and Business. Whether on stage or behind the scenes, Beverly is passionate about helping individuals step into the spotlight, speak with purpose, and inspire their audiences to take meaningful action. That says it all. I am so happy to be having this conversation with my friend this evening. Bevy, is there anything else that you would like to add to the discussion, or are we ready to rock and roll?
I am ready to rock and roll. I think you said it all, and I'm ready.
Perfect. Okay, so we're going to get into this again because we love public speaking, and especially we love to watch the contests when they come up every year. I'm pretty sure we're going to have our usual watch party to see who takes the crown this year in August for the World Championship. So I'm going to start with this first question because I'm curious to hear what you will say. What do you see missing from many clients' speeches when they first come to you with their contest speech draft? So someone has created an outline of their contest speech, what they want to do. They have that much. And now they're bringing it to you to flesh out the speech or make any improvements. They're ready to go. They just have a skeleton, if you will, of their speech. So what would you say do you see missing from a lot of the speeches for the clients that come to you to compete?
The one thing that I see most of all is the lack of a message. I find that when I listen to a speech or I look at a person's speech for the first time, I struggle to find what that message is. And after having several conversations, we do pull it out, but that is the main thing. And the way that we try to get to that message is to have what we call a foundational phrase. And that is an indicator that this is the message of the speech. And the foundational phrase is like less than 10 words and it's short, it's brief. And it's that phrase that if someone missed your speech and you're out in the hallway and someone asks you, well, what was Roquita's speech about? The first thing that's going to come to them will be whatever that phrase was. And I'm not saying that every speech has to have it, but that is one of the clear indicators that this is what that message is about. This is what this speech is about. And you'll hear it repeated multiple times throughout the speech. And that's the main thing that I see that's missing. And the other thing that I see that's missing is a conflict. And
Ooh.
and the conflict is that thing that if there's no conflict, then what's the point in having the speech? And I find that people that is lacking. And it just takes a lot of time coaching a speaker from beginning to end so that we can uncover the message and the conflict and all of the other elements that goes into a great speech. But those two are the main ones that stand out for me. What are your
So
thoughts?
missing a foundational message and not having the conflict in their speeches.
Mhm.
Okay, so we got a lot to work with here. We got a lot to
Mhm.
work with.
Mhm. Mhm.
So Bevy explained what the foundational message is. It's what your speech rests on. And like she said, it's usually a line that's repeated. The audience can grasp it, but you do need to have that established. It's like your speech is loose. Your speech is all over the place if you don't have that foundational, the foundational message there. So that's something, and I would agree with her. When I work with clients, sometimes I might even call it the core message. It's
Mm-hmm.
like, what is this built on? You can't have a house that's built on sand. What happens? It sinks. So
Mm-hmm.
that foundational message, it's a firm foundation is what it is. So you're not going to go off on a bunch of tangents. You're not going to have throw this in, this story, this content, which is another issue right there. You're going to have a bunch of things in there that should not be there. There's not going to be any type of cohesion here. So you're going to have a speech that is all over the place. And I think even you and I have discussed this before, where we've seen contest speeches, like usually at the area and division level,
Yes.
and they have like 5 different stories from their
Mm-hmm.
life that are thrown in there, and
Right.
clearly not all of them even needed to be there. They're not as impactful as the other stories. The other stories are supporting that foundational message the best, but they're throwing all this other stuff in for whatever
Mm-hmm.
reason. They think it's a great story. It's they think it's going to take them to the top. But like you said, it's like coaching some things out. That's what it is.
Yes.
You have to coach
That's that's
some things
that's that's
out.
exactly what's happening, because when you have that foundational phrase and this identifies what your message is, so anything that does not support that message, we need to release it. And I have clients that do not want to release any parts of their content. And as a coach, it's not my job to tell you to throw these things out. It's to guide you and let you know that if we want to make that message stick, we need to consider. And I always like to use the word consider. I don't like to say you should do this or you should do that. That's not what it's about. I would, think about it, sleep on it, and if you come back the next time and you decide you want to keep it, I'll work with you to do the best to make it work, to fit into it. And when you mentioned the early speeches, the area and club speeches, sometimes the people who are speaking don't know what the international, and I'm speaking about the international speech contest specifically,
Mhm.
is about. They're been voluntold to be in this contest. So they will come with a speech that's informative, the 3 things that you need to do in order to pick the right doctor, or, something that is not exactly in line with what you would want for an international speech. And the
Yes.
international speech, for the most part, you want it to be inspirational and motivational. And it will have some informative parts of it, but your goal is to inspire the world, because it's an international speech. People from around the world needs to be impacted by this speech and the message. So when you see
Mhm.
those area contests and division contests, you just know that they haven't taken the time to study. They're probably, most cases, new to Toastmasters, and they just don't know what to impart. So if you are a new Toastmaster, just keep in mind what the goal is: to inspire and motivate on a global scale.
I love that she said this. This was a question I was going to ask a little later down, but I
Mm-hmm.
mean, this is fine. Again, it's a conversation. This is how Beverly and I talk in real life when we are going over speeches and analyzing. But she's absolutely right. I remember hearing a speech once, and this is someone who was competing in international. It was their first time competing, and like Beverly said, I really don't think that the club really informed her all of what the international speech really is about. I for sure don't think that they told this person that this is really of an inspirational or motivational nature, because in the handbook, the Toastmasters handbook, there's not a specific topic that you have to talk about. However, it's pretty much known this does need to be something of an inspirational nature. So the speech that I heard many, many years ago, well over a decade ago, her speech was about why you should adopt a shelter dog. Literally,
Mm-hmm.
that was the title. You should adopt
Mm-hmm.
a shelter dog. And here's the thing, you can even take something like that, because this topic was very near and dear to her heart. There's a way to even make that inspirational,
Mm-hmm.
motivational. However, the way she presented it, it really sounded like a presentation that you might do at some type of fundraising event,
Right.
or an
Yeah.
event where you're trying to get people to adopt the dogs. It just was not the type of speech for a Toastmasters international speech contest. It really didn't have any inspirational element to it at all. So I
Mm-hmm.
love the fact that you said people who are competing for the first time, a lot of them really don't know. And it's absolutely true. So we're not
Mm-hmm.
here to even beat up on people who are competing the first time. And you're like, oh my gosh, well, that's why I lost when I competed last
Mm-hmm.
year. You don't know what you don't know. And if your club didn't tell you, maybe they didn't know either. I know we had someone in one of my clubs who asked that recently. They said, well, what's involved? What do you have to do? Besides telling them some of the requirements that you have, uh, requirements to even be able to compete in that contest,
Mm-hmm.
we told them this does need to be inspirational speech. Do
Mm-hmm.
with that what you will, but start there. It does need to be inspirational. So I love that
Right.
you said that. And when you mentioned conflict earlier, because I don't want to go past that either,
Mm-hmm.
conflict. What is a story without conflict? It's not a story. It's
No.
just something happened and here was a solution. You missed a whole big chunk of it. What was the friction? What was the
Mm-hmm.
friction? Like, what happened between recognizing that there was a problem and then you coming to a solution? All of the action in between, we got to talk about the conflict there. And
Mm-hmm.
that's really, when you think about it, what the speech is built around: a story.
Yes.
You just, for our audience, you just heard us say this is not a seminar or a lecture that you're giving. So, what is it? This is a story. This is a message that you're starting with. Like Beverly said,
Mm-hmm.
it's a story, and you can take that story and you can boil it down to a foundational phrase, because every story has a message. There's some type of message there, and you have to build that story out into your speech. And there are a lot of elements that are involved with crafting an effective
Mm-hmm.
story. But absolutely, I just don't want to glaze over that. The conflict is truly important. You have anything else?
And what I wanted to add to that is I like a speech that takes us on a roller coaster ride. We would start out, we could
Mhm.
start out on a happy place, but there's something, that conflict that's going to, stop us in our tracks. And then there's something going to build up the crescendo that's going to take us to the end. So you want the outcome of your speech to show where you started and the change at the end. And I always like to, when I'm coaching with someone, to feel that. If I'm not feeling those emotions that you've taken us through, and again, I call it an emotional roller coaster ride, just not a roller coaster ride. And you will have the times when there's humor, even in a serious topic. You and I think we need to talk about this too, where you do not want to bring your audience into the valley and not bring them out of it.
That is the worst.
And 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 I saw one contestant won a speech, and it was a division contest, and it was all about sexual harassment, or domestic violence. The whole speech was like that. So the whole time we were in this trauma with her, and she came
Mhm.
in third place. For me, I was like, who are these judges that were judging this speech, where they kept us there? She kept us there from the beginning to the end. And even though she didn't come in first, in my mind, a speech like that should not have even placed third, considering all of the other competition that took place in that contest. So that's one thing
Mhm.
that you have to be very conscious of. is don't keep us there. Bring the audience out because we want to see you. We're rooting for you to change. We're rooting for that change to come on the other end. So I just wanted to point that out as well.
Yes, you definitely want to leave your audience on a high note. And I do think that some people think if I'm telling a sad story, or is there even an uplifting message or a way to end this on uh what's the word I'm looking for? Yeah, a high
Yeah,
note.
like on a
There
high.
definitely is. We
Mm-hmm.
don't, like you said, we don't want to leave our audience in the valley in a sad place. Like what is
Mm-hmm.
the message here? What's the change that happened? That's the other
Mm-hmm.
part of the story. How did you change? How did the change come about? Like I'm
Mm-hmm.
hoping that the sad part is not the end of your story. What's
Mm-hmm.
the message here? What can the audience take from your speech that they can apply to themselves here? What is the message? What can they learn from this?
Mm-hmm.
Or is this just I'm telling this sad story and you're going to leave your audience there? I've
Mm-hmm.
also heard contest speeches like that. I mean, it's very depressing. And I'm not saying that there are not depressing moments in a speech, just like you
Mm-hmm.
said. However,
What's the
it's like
takeaway?
what's the redeeming part of this?
Right.
What did you learn? How did you get out of that? That's what the audience needs to hear, that part of the
Mm-hmm.
story. So yes,
Right.
you do want to take the audience on an emotional roller coaster. Man, the audience loves a good story.
Mm-hmm.
Contestants just forget that. That
Right.
is something that no matter how old we get, that part of us is still very, very much like when we were children. It's not just children who loves
Mm-hmm.
a good story, and we want to see what happens, the challenges, the highs, the lows, the ending
Mm-hmm.
that really ties it all together, and we see how you overcome. How,
And
like, we really want to see all of that. We want to hear it, and of course you can't include every single part of the story because you only have 5 to 7 minutes in international speech contest.
right.
But that's where a coach comes in to help you with that. But that's a whole nother story. But we do want to hear the major highlights of it. So absolutely, conflict is key. So
And the other thing that I want to add is we need to know who the guru is. Now, the guru is that person or thing that gave you the answer, that helped you to come out of the valley. So, say for instance, if some people they give a speech and they start out, well, I this happened to me, and then all of a sudden this is the solution, and here are the 5 tips that I want to impart to you. But on that roller coaster ride that you've taken us on, someone or something told you or helped you to discover the answer to whatever it is that you were going to. And when I say something, it could be this light lamp that I have in front of me, an inanimate object that if you that type of person that is intuitive and you listen to things and you just hear voices, what was that voice? And that gave you that answer. But it's not a good thing to just jump from having this problem and solving it on your own. And even if you felt in the moment that you solved it on your own, you need to take time and think about this whole experience and what were the things that you had to go through in order to come to the resolution. And that is one thing that's important that we need to know as an audience member.
we do. The guru is absolutely important. Who gave you that wisdom to be
Mhm.
able to resolve the conflict that you were going through, that problem that you were having? And I mean, again, there are different elements to a story. So you just
Mhm.
heard us. We talked about the conflict. You got to have the guru. We talked about
The
what
foundational
is
phrase.
going, yeah, your foundational phrase. You got to have that part. You you have to have some way to bring the audience to a high note at the end, tie it all together. How do you do that? So it's a few different pieces there, but the story is central to your speech, because without a story, what are you
Mm-hmm.
doing? You're providing boom, boom, boom. It's just a bunch of points, a bunch of lists. It really
Mm-hmm.
does sound like a lecture, and no one wants to sit through a lecture, if we're quite honest. Like, I don't know many people that do. So I mean, you
Mm-mm.
dropped some valuable gems there, Bevy. So everyone, you just heard her.
Mm-hmm.
These are things that she's noticed that are missing from client speeches, and I've heard them as well when I've been in the audience when I watched contests. So love it. All
Mm-hmm.
right. Let me see. I have a few things here, and I want to keep it again to within an hour. So I'm just going to ask questions that I think will be extremely valuable for our audience, especially those who are competing. And I want to address this because you and I know you have heard this before too.
Mm-hmm.
Something that I think is important to remind speech contestants about is, if you have a message, but your message has been said before in some form or fashion, it might not be worded exactly the same, but the message is pretty much been done by other contestants, whether it's been other world class, contestants at the stage level. Let me get my words together. When they're competing at the convention, or
Mm-hmm.
maybe it's in their district or their division level area, whatever. I I've heard some people in the audience who watch Toastmasters contest for years, and they're like, "Oh, yeah, it was a good speech. It was a really good speech." But I've heard this message before.
I
But
know.
I remember somebody saying that, and I said, "Well, yeah, but is anything really new under the sun? Not saying you can't have
No,
something. Um, you know what I mean? Like
the same message.
you can
Mm-hmm.
have the same message, but it won't really be the same message because your experiences are unique. Your
Mm-hmm.
perspective is unique. The narrative, how you're going to craft the narrative for your speech, is going to be different from how that other person did it who had a very similar message as yours.
Right.
These contests have been going on for decades now, and I'm quite sure that a lot of these messages
Has
are
been
the
repeated.
same. Yeah, they've been
Mm-hmm.
repeated. They just are worded differently. But you know what? A lot of us will never catch it because that person's story is
Mm-hmm.
so different. So I wanted to bring that up because I don't want a contestant to get discouraged if they feel like, oh, well, my message, something about leadership, it's been said before.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, but we haven't heard how you presented it before. We haven't heard your story that brought forth this message, this realization, this lesson for you. And that's
Mm-hmm.
what's important. I don't want you to discard that lesson because you feel like it's been told before. Well, so
Right.
what? There there are a lot of people, a lot of nail salons. And guess what? There are always going to
They
be more
all
nail
doing the
salons.
same. They're all
They're not
doing the
going to stop.
nails.
Somebody else has a nail salon. What is going to
Mm-hmm.
differentiate you from the next speaker, the next contest speech? That's how I look at it.
Right. And you mentioned the watch parties. So every year since COVID, I've been having watch parties, inviting Toastmasters and
I
anyone
love
else who wants to come and just watch the contestants in the semifinals and the finals. And every year, I don't remember what the theme was last year, but one of the comments, because we make comments in between each of the speakers, and one of the comments was that, oh, it seems like everyone has the same theme. Their message is all around the same theme. And I don't remember what it was, but that's okay, because out of all of those speakers, you're only going to choose the top three, right? And each one of them, if it was an issue, they would all be telling the same story. But that's not even the case. The case is that they're sharing the same message, per se, but in their own way. And the way that I look at it when I'm judging and when I'm coaching is, how is it structurally and meaning the content is structured well. I can follow along. They're using the stage with purpose. They're using their vocal variety and body language, all of those things. So you can have someone with the same message, but they're lacking in some of those areas that they're being judged on. So it's okay to have that same theme or type of message, but just know that yours is going to be different from the next person and the next person and the next person. And may the best speaker win at the end of the day. That's all it comes down to.
I love that. May the best
Mm-hmm.
man or woman win. Absolutely, may the best speaker win.
Mm-hmm.
But I just thought that point was so important to bring up
Oh,
because
yeah.
yeah, you and I both, we've heard commentary like that when we've had the watch parties. Again, is anything really new since the beginning of
No.
time? We've just,
Mm-mm.
a lot of us have been going through the same experiences in humanity.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of us have gone through the same types of things, but how we got there is different. So, listen, a
Mm-hmm.
lot of you have amazing stories that need to be told. I am sure that they are winning speeches. They are winning. Don't be discouraged because you don't think that it's some brand new message.
Mm-hmm.
It's okay. It's okay. Just
Yes.
get your story together and get it refined, the elements that it needs, and you'd be amazed. You'd be amazed at the messages that have been around that still hit. And quite honestly, and I've heard this, sometimes you'll hear this from trainers.
Mm-hmm.
Trainers will repeat the sometimes the same information, something that they think is really important. They might repeat it a few times, like 3 times during
Throughout.
the training. I
Yeah.
actually had a coworker I used to work with, and he was part of the C-suite. And he used to say, because he was also a professor, he
Mm-hmm.
said that he would repeat something, I think around 7 times, probably
7 times. I think that's the rule.
yes,
Mm-hmm.
sprinkle it 7 times throughout the lecture. Say he'll say it in different ways, but the point
Yes.
is because he wants it to stick with the students. He's saying
Yes.
the same thing. People need to
Mm-hmm.
hear something a few times. Maybe they heard that message before in another speech,
Mm-hmm.
but because they heard you say it this time, now the message
Yes.
is sticking with them in a different way. It is
That's right.
impactful to them
Mm-hmm.
because they heard how you presented it. So I just
Right.
want to leave our contestants encouraged by that.
Yeah. And when you said they said it in a different way, and that's happened to me before where it's like I've heard the same message, but the right person said it. And I think it has something to do with the connection that that person has on you. It's like maybe it's just something about this person, and you're leaning forward, and it's like, okay, I'm just going to eat up everything you tell me. And you think back later, well, they told me that. I've heard that 1,000 times. Why did it stick this time? Because in most cases, there is a connection happening between you and the audience. And that was one
Absolutely.
thing that I saw with the person that I helped get to the semifinals. And afterwards, many people came up to the contestant and said, I can relate to your topic. You really touched me with that topic. And so that's where the universal part, the global part comes in. So, I mean, you have 2,000 people listening to the same speech from all around the world. And so you just don't know. Even, and I'll just end with this, even if you don't win first place, you're still making a connection. You still impacting people's lives. And I know contestants that have placed second place and they've gone on as if they won first place. They've built businesses, they're making money, they're doing all of the things. So don't think that I have to be the world champion of public speaking in order to be considered a great speaker.
I have to mention this person because he's a perfect example of what you just mentioned, that even if you don't come in first place, you can take, if you came in third place in the world championship,
Yeah.
you can take that and build your
Yes.
own empire around it. My friend Roger
I
Caesar.
know exactly who you was gonna say. Yep.
Roger
Yes.
Caesar, I think it was either, I think 2021, I believe 2021. But
Mhm.
Roger came in third place for the World Championship of Public Speaking.
Mhm.
Roger is all over the place now. He
Yes.
is speaking at Toastmaster conferences all over the world. I know he was in
Mhm.
Ireland last year. He's literally all over. He's actually coming because I'm down here in Alabama now. He's
Mhm.
coming to my Toastmasters district here, District 77. He's coming
Nice.
here. It's being held in Panama City Beach, Florida, next Friday, next weekend. Roger will be here. Roger has
Mhm.
built an empire. He did not, take because he got third place.
Yeah.
Not his laurels, was depressed about it. He is in
Mhm.
high demand. He has a coaching business. He is
Yes.
out there. So I,
Mhm.
I just wanted to give that example to Bevy's point about
Mhm.
you can take whatever place you make, first, second, third, or even if you didn't make the top three, you can still
Mhm.
be requested to speak at conferences for Toastmasters or other places. It's what you
Mhm.
do with it.
That's
So
right. And book
really,
yourself. It's like, hey, look, I need a speaking opportunity. Just book yourself. Don't wait to be asked to speak. Mhm.
absolutely, absolutely.
Mhm.
Okay, so let me
Mhm.
let me ask you this next question. So let's talk about opening your speech, because you and I know that it takes 7 seconds for the audience to decide if they like you, and it
Mhm.
takes 30 seconds for them to decide if they want to still keep listening
Listening. Yep.
to you.
Yes.
There are so many different ways that you can open a speech. And now, especially with a contest speech, you really have to be thoughtful about how you are going to start this speech off, because that really does set the tone. So, yes, it's
Mhm.
important any type of speech you do,
Right.
but
Yes.
especially with the contest speech, you really want to be mindful of it. So, I wanted to know if you have any recommendations or thoughts about opening in an effective way, or maybe something at work, an example you can give us with some of the clients that you
Mhm.
work with. Maybe they wanted to start out a different way, and by the time you finish
Mhm.
working with them, you were like, no, it changed to this. So anything you want to,
Mm.
maybe it could be how not to
Mhm.
start off.
Right. I when I think about that question, there's a speech contestant that stands out for me, and he started out with the cigarette. Do you remember?
I do.
I
It's a
can't
few years
remember his
ago.
name, and I feel terrible because I in the beginning I was studying all of the speakers so that I can dissect and help my clients. But the one whenever he started out with striking the match and pretending to smoke the cigarette, I
I'm
was
gonna look his
like,
name up right while we speak. I'm gonna
yes.
look his name
So
up, but
I
go ahead.
was
I
like,
can picture
oh.
it.
And then he made a joke about it. So the fact that he chose something that was out of the box, something to just stun us, and like you said, that first 7 seconds, it's like, okay, I want to know where this speech is going, right? So that was one that stood out for me. Another one, uh, Aaron Beverly.
Yes, Aaron Beverly.
I think 2019, I think he won. I don't remember the exact year. But when he opened his speech, I was somewhat disappointed. And the reason why is because he opened it referencing the speech that he gave in 2016, where he came in
Oh
second
yes.
place. So, what happened if you weren't in the know, you wouldn't understand why he opened it that way. And when he opened it, he said that, contest chair, I'm sure you're happy that you did, what my speech title was in 59 words, or 50, I think it's 57 or 59 words, because that was the title of his speech. So I had to get past that in order to get into the meat of his speech and the reason why he won that contest. So he chose that. And so some of the choices that you make are not necessarily bad, but the reason why I didn't resonate with it is because for all of those 1,999 people who weren't at that previous contest, you don't know what he's talking about if you hadn't heard that second place winning speech. So it's always based on what your message is. I think that's where you determine how you should open your speech. Because
I
if it
agree.
doesn't relate, then it doesn't make sense for us to try to give you any gimmicks of, okay, well, just come from the back of the stage. You don't start on the stage, come from the audience, all of those kind of things. It doesn't make sense because, again, it needs to tie into your message. That's the advice I have for that.
So I got the Toastmaster who
Okay, what's
won
his
the
name?
cigarette, Muhammad Katani.
Yes.
Muhammad Katani was his name. And I do remember it was so memorable, him just standing there with that cigarette. And
And
I
he
agree,
made up
there's
these statistics about cancer. I was like, it was a fun way to open it, and then leading into something serious and taking us on the emotional roller coaster ride. So, mhm.
it was like the suspense too, like the first few seconds, you're like,
Yeah, because he was like,
what's he doing with
"What's he
that?
doing?"
So
Hmm.
everyone, that's a point right there. How to open, you don't always have to speak right away. Suspense is a
Hmm.
great opener. Being silent, letting
Hmm.
people feel that tension in the room, wondering what is happening, why you're doing what you're doing, what are you
Hmm.
going to say next, can be so effective. You don't
Hmm.
always have to say something. Sometimes you have to say nothing. Say
Right.
nothing.
Because
Your mere
remember,
presence.
remember Ed Tate when he started his speech and he was silent and just panning the audience, and they call it the Ed Tate scan, I think it is. So he's silent for seconds
You
at
know
a
what? I
time.
have to watch his
Yeah.
again. His I
Uh,
have to watch.
one of
Yeah.
those days is the name of that speech. One of those days, and he just started out. And again, some people shy away from that because you can run into your time. You have 7 minutes, no
True.
more than 7 minutes and 30 seconds. And that's why a lot of speakers are hesitant to do a lot of pauses because it's like, wait a minute. The other thing that's a killer when it comes to speaking, when you have humor and the audience laughs longer than you anticipated, and you have crafted your speech so that it will end at exactly 7 minutes and no more than 7 minutes and 30 seconds, and you don't want to step on the laugh. So you need to just milk up that laugh. It's taken up like 7 of my seconds that I needed for my speech. And that's another thing that you have to be concerned about. But he is infamous for just standing still and just panning the audience for seconds at a time, and then he'll start. So,
I'm going to tell you someone else's opening who I liked, and it's Darren LaCroix, the
mm-hmm.
2001 Toastmasters winner.
Yeah.
Now, even though he did start out his winning speech by speaking,
Mm-hmm.
what was very effective about Darren's speech and memorable was that after he spoke just his few words in the opening, Darren actually fell down, like right on
On his
his
face.
face.
Mm-hmm.
And the thing is, he didn't just fall forward on the stage, he stayed there for a
Mm-hmm.
few prolonged seconds, like to the point where the audience probably felt uncomfortable, like, what's he
Mm-hmm.
doing?
And
Is he
and he
really
talks about that. He
hurt?
talks about how the audience felt uncomfortable, and his coach told him, "No, it's not your job to make them feel comfortable.
Exactly. But that's exactly my point. The
It's to
audience,
have
the
that
audience felt
impact."
something. That's
Hmm.
something that they felt, even feeling uncomfortable. That's effective. They felt something, and it's a feeling that they're not going to forget. Like, oh, that
That's
man
right.
just fell flat on his face and he stood there. I thought he was going to hop back up. He did
Mm-hmm.
not. I didn't know what to make of it. We're just sitting there. I just love that he did that. And his coach was
And
right. Like, it's not your job to make them feel comfortable, but he made them feel something, and they weren't
mm-hmm.
going to forget that opening ever.
And knowing that Darren is about humor, he's known for comedy, and the fact that he's laying on his face and still greeting the contest chair, his hand reached back
Yes,
contest chair. So it's like he incorporated all of that in that opening. And that was 2020, I believe, and we're still talking about
20,
it.
no,
2020,
2001.
2021. Yes. Ooh.
2001.
Yes, 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 2001. Mm-hmm.
So,
Yeah,
and
so we're still talking about it.
yes,
So it's
20,
those
20
kind
something
of
years
things.
later.
But again, we just don't want this to be about, okay, everyone, if you want to win the speech contest, come up with a gimmick. We don't want you to, we're not saying to do that, but we want to express and stress the fact that it should be memorable in some way.
I don't even think that you should start out, because when most people are starting to write their speeches, they will start top to bottom. It's like, I'm gonna do the opening, then I'll work on the
Mhm.
body, then I'll do the closing.
Yes,
It
right.
really is. I teach my clients this. It's
The
so much
middle,
more effective to work on the body of the
the
speech.
body 1st.
But that's the major part of the speech. That's the chunk
Yeah.
of your speech right there. Once you have all that together, your points, the stories, everything there, it's
Hmm.
so much easier to then try to work on the opening. You try it, everyone. Try it. I know you're like, I'm not sure about that.
No,
Beverly and I are
that's the
telling
best
you.
way. And that's one thing I learned when crafting a speech. And it people don't teach it though. I don't understand why you don't hear about that. For me, it's like when you're writing a book, 9 times out of 10, and I'm talking about say a textbook, you're gonna write the body and then you're gonna write the content. You that opening part, this is happening on this page. So why would you do it differently from a speech? Because after you get all of the body in place, then you can make decisions about the opening. Should I open with a question or thought provoking question? Should I open with a story? Should I open whatever? But you can't come to that conclusion until you have the body. And the same thing with the conclusion. The conclusion needs to be based on what happened in the opening. It's like you tie it all together. So it's one of those things that I don't hear taught very often, but I recommend that you do that. And I also recommend that when it comes time for crafting your title, some people give the speech away in the title. I don't like that. It's like, oh, don't
Yeah,
do it. I
I
don't do
agree
it.
with that.
Yeah.
Mystery
Hmm.
can be a great thing, or when it's ambiguous, it could
Yeah.
go like a multitude of ways. You're not really sure what they're hitting on here. I
Hmm.
mean, and let me say this, and this, I know this is where you're going. So think about how you are going to intrigue or get the audience's attention before you even say a word,
Yep.
before they even come to hear you speak. When that announcer, the MC, says your speech, your contest speech name, you want the audience to be ready to hear you just from that alone. Like,
Hmm.
whoa,
Hmm.
that title is arresting. So
Hmm.
they're ready. They're ready to hear what you have to say. They're in the palm of your hands. That's how you want to have them.
And I think that's the approach that Aaron Beverly took when he made his title 57 words. And we, as an audience member, had to sit there and listen to it twice. I'm like, oh my God. And he's like, quiet, quiet, quiet. This is the title. I'm not just saying words up here. This is the speech title. And I think that was his approach. And I think it fell short because it was so long, we don't even know what the title was. But it did fit the speech. It did
Agreed.
speak to the message of the speech. So, I mean, he was being creative, and He said,
It
no one's
was
done that
creative. I
before.
remember the audience laughing. The audience that was there in the room, like they cracked up. I think I even laughed because after a while, you're
Because we
like,
didn't know. It's like, okay, first of all, how long is it? It's like, okay, now let's pay attention because that was the first time. Now let's listen to it for the second time so we can get it. And I don't even know if they have it written anywhere so that even if you go back to review the speech, that
mm-hmm.
if it's, those words are written as the title. But yeah, so he was being creative. Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. We're going to shift gears for a moment. I want to talk about, so we've talked about the speech in itself, content. Let's
Mm-hmm.
talk about the preparation for it, because I think practice is a question that a lot
Mm-hmm.
of people have. Well, how do I practice effectively? Because practice and rehearsal does play a role in the success of your contest speech. So
Mm-hmm.
is there, are there any recommendations that you usually will give to your clients who are competing in the speech contest when it comes to preparation? Like if you have 2 or 3 tips that
Mm-hmm.
you would recommend. Like I have one. I'll give mine after you give
Mm-hmm.
yours, but I would love to hear your top recommendations that you would give your
Mm-hmm.
clients.
As far as preparation, first I would say make sure that you're done with the speech, that you know I'm not making any more changes, especially leading up to the contest date. So I've had experiences where, say for the area contest, it's good. Let's don't touch it anymore with my clients. And then the next contest division, we need to make some revisions because you want to up it, up the level each time. So first of all, just say, all right, I'm not making any more changes. That's it. The second thing that I suggested you do is to practice in chunks,
Mm-hmm.
meaning practice your opening until you get that down. Practice your body and until the whole objective is to get it internalized, get the whole entire speech internalized. And we don't use the term memorize because it's not about
Right.
memorization. So you want to internalize it. And then the third thing that I would say to do is to practice multiple times. I have when I'm coaching people, you're going to practice that speech. If you don't practice it at least 30, 40, 50, some people have practiced that same speech for 100 times. Just be okay and understand that you can't practice a speech 10 times and think it's going to go on that stage and win. And when I say practice, I mean do the dress rehearsal right before the contest date, move the stage, do all of the things. But those are the three things, be set on it and internalize it and practice many, 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 many times.
Yes, you
Mhm.
want to practice it to the point where it's like you could recite it in your sleep.
That's right.
Well, you can
Hmm.
pick up from anywhere in the
Yes.
speech, and you'd be able to finish it from that point on where you
Hmm.
started. Hence, when Beverly said practice in chunks, that's
Hmm.
exactly what I tell my clients as well. Because what do a lot of people do? Every time they practice, they start
Yeah.
from the beginning and go
All the way
straight
through.
through. Well, no, practice just the opening, like she said. And then at another time, maybe start from the middle of the speech and see if you can finish it from there.
Hmm.
That is
Hmm.
also good because what if you get distracted at some point?
Hmm.
And you might get
Yes.
distracted in the middle of your speech. You got to be able to pick up and go from there. You might
Hmm.
not get distracted from the beginning of your speech. What if you're in the middle of it? You have to be able to keep going. So that's another
Hmm.
reason why it's good to practice from different sections
Different
of your
sections, yeah.
speech.
Mhm.
Start, and then do a run through where you bring it all together from top to bottom. But absolutely, you don't always need to
Mhm.
practice straight through from beginning to end. Now, I'll add this,
Mhm.
something that I did when I won in 2014 the District 46, the humorous speech
Mm-hmm.
contest. The day before the contest, I went to a studio. My friend had a business in this, it was a business complex, and he had
Mm-hmm.
mirrors. He had a
Mm-hmm.
mirrored wall. I practiced in front of that mirrored wall because I
Mm-hmm.
wanted to see how I came across on stage.
Yes.
I wanted to see my body movements.
Moving. Mm-hmm.
I needed to see all that together. I mean, it's yes, I know a lot of us, we do have a standing mirror in our home, but
Mm-hmm.
I needed to see how I looked when I'm moving across the whole stage, and me getting to see that with that
Mm-hmm.
mirrored wall was so priceless. That was my
Right.
session the night before I had to compete at the
Mm-hmm.
district. I
Uh-huh. And I remember that contest.
huh?
I remember that contest, and you started out, you were the first contestant, if I'm correct, right?
Yes, I was the very
So I
first.
was like, okay, all right. So you set the bar high. I mean, you had everybody rolling in their seats, right? So the person that I coached came after you, and I was like, oh, I don't know. Roquita's already set the bar, so the chances. So you came in first, and she came in second, and that
Oh,
was
I
one of
remember her. Oh my
yes,
gosh, she had
yes,
the funny speech where we thought she might
yes.
have been like a lady of the night.
Yes. So it was like, oh, and so you both had, but you really set it high because I mean your speech was all of that. So it's
But
just a
I remember
situation.
hers. How
Yes.
how powerful it is. I still remember hers after all these
Yes.
years. She was so funny to me. I remember.
Mm-hmm. Yes. And so the other thing, as a tag on to you using the mirror, now we have these fancy cameras on our phones. It's like you record yourself. And that's one thing that I do with my clients. I record them, have them record themselves and look at them, review it. And this way you can actually see everything. You can see all of your movements and all of that. So if you don't have that big mirror, even if you do have the big mirror, record yourself and watch it back. And me, I like to see when the review, do I see that emotion? Am I feeling what, that message? All of the different elements of the speech, I like to see that in the people that I coach. They get frustrated. It's like, oh my God, I got to do this again. I'm sorry, but I'm not feeling it. The audience, if you're not feeling it, we're not going to feel it. So it's a situation like that. So yeah, so record. We'll add that to the list. Put it at the top.
I agree. Record, and everyone, I know it feels awkward to look at yourself. Even experienced speakers will tell you that they still cringe a little when they have to review themselves in a video.
Mm-hmm.
It's just awkward looking at yourself, but it is crucial. You're
Mm-hmm.
gonna learn a lot by just looking at that video versus how you thought you came across. It's
Yeah.
so powerful. Seeing is believing, like they say. It really is, especially when you're competing. You have to watch yourself. Seeing is believing. You're going to see exactly what you did well
Mm-hmm.
and where you thought you did well and you didn't. So
Mm-hmm.
it's very
Yeah.
powerful. Okay, we
Mm-hmm.
are at our hour mark, but I'm going to ask you one more question, and
Mm-hmm.
then I'll go into a few fun hot seat questions for you because you know
Okay.
I like to bring the fun to it.
Mm-hmm.
Let me ask you this. This is a good way to leave off. Are there key traits or habits that you see a lot of the winners, the speech contest winners have, whether it's people that you have coached, you've identified these common traits, and even with world champion speakers that have won, maybe some that you see. So if you can
Mm-hmm.
if there's a couple or three that you have that you've noticed about them, something they have in common that we can share with our audience?
Mm-hmm. What's coming to mind off is that story that we talked about, the ones that resonate. Let's say, for instance, the story where it started out with the rose, and he says, "I see something in you, but I don't
Yes,
know what it is."
Benajaya. I think his name was pronounced Benajaya.
Danajaya. So, I mean, he had a whole story. He took us from where he started, his mama being mad at him, and it's just taking us. And each time he reminded us, I see something in you, but I don't know what it is. So, just taking us through that story has always been helpful. The other thing that I stress is to not have too much information in your speech. So, in my experience with one of the people that I coach, I made the recommendation to take something out, and they were married to it, didn't want to let it out. And at the end of the finals, I read, someone wrote an ebook about the contest and just breaking down all of the speakers and who they thought should have won and who shouldn't have won. So of course the author said, "Well, I don't think the person who won should have won, but I think my client should have won." And he said the reason why I think that he did not win is because he had 5 parts in the body of his speech. And that very thing that I was asking him to, let's just condense it. You have too much, and in that author's mind, it's like, okay, if they didn't have that, then they probably would have won. So I would say, just keeping it succinct. And the other thing that the world champions suggest is to write a 6-minute speech and deliver it in 7. Meaning, and that's where you don't have that extra stuff that I was talking about, that extra body stuff, because again, you are going to have those moments when people are going to be laughing at places where it's like, this is not funny, why are y'all laughing? And you have to take that in. So you need to have space for that extra time. Even when you move into stage, that takes seconds. So just keep in mind that you might be the type of speech writer that says, okay, a 7-minute speech is about 700 and something words. So that's what you write down, but it's not the same when it comes to delivery. So those are
Agreed.
the things that are top of mind for me.
I'm going to add this, and
Mm-hmm.
this is not me being biased,
Okay.
but a lot of the winners that you see from these contests do have coaches. A lot of them
Mm-hmm.
get a coach
Yeah.
at a certain point. I'm not saying they start out with a coach at the club level, but usually once it's like, whoa, I won at my district and I'm moving on to regionals and semifinals, they
Mm-hmm.
start getting a coach. I mean, that's serious at that point. It's serious the
And
whole way through, but you are on a grander scale at that point. The stakes are higher. So you
mm-hmm.
will see a lot of contestants, they do get a coach. They
Mm-hmm.
will
And
pay someone to help them get this speech in tip top shape.
I just want to add to that Jocelyn, the one that won last year, she didn't get a coach. She considered it. She said she considered it, but she said, let me see how I can go on my own. And so it's not the norm, because the world champions are there to assist, and they do help out, and they have different platforms that you can get coaching from them.
Yeah.
But the ones who do get coaches are the ones who make it to that stage, the final stage. So yeah, that's important.
Absolutely.
Hmm.
Yeah, you're right. It's not a must, but the majority, I've
Hmm.
heard contestants say that they got a coach. So
Hmm.
it's just like an athlete when they get to a certain level and they want to be the best and go further and further with their athletic pursuits,
Yep.
they do have trainers and coaches. So with anything that we are invested in life, where we are trying to hone our talents, someone
Hmm.
who's been there, who knows the road, they can really help you, because they
Hmm.
will make your long road, their long road will be your shortcut.
Sure, sure.
That's what
Yeah.
Craig Valentine says. And I love that.
Yes.
All the
Hmm.
trials and the challenges that I went through with my public speaking and being a contestant, now I can help you because I've been there,
Mm-hmm.
so you don't have to necessarily go through everything. There will be some challenges, but you're not going to have to go through a lot of it because
Mm-hmm.
coach there. So
And I just want to add another fellow world champion of public speaking coach. She came to me to help her with one of the contests, and we worked together. And just because we're all coaches, it's not easy to coach ourselves. So she said in her testimonial, she says, you might wonder why would I come to being a coach, go to someone to give me coaching, because we see things that you as a coach cannot see. And she said that the coaching that I gave her helped her to get on a TEDx stage. And I wasn't even coaching her for a TEDx stage. I was coaching her for the international speech. But she said from the work that we did, it landed her a spot on TEDx. So coaches
wow.
need coaches. Everyone, if you want to get to that next level, coaches are essential. Mhm.
Absolutely. I
Mhm.
agree. They are. They are.
Yeah.
All right, Bevy. I have some
Mhm.
hot seat questions I'm going to ask you.
Oh, okay.
Are you ready? Ready? Okay, okay.
Okay.
Coffee or tea? Coffee or tea?
Tea. I don't drink coffee.
I love tea too. I'm with you there. Okay. Michael Jackson or Prince?
Michael Jackson.
Okay, okay.
Oh,
Early mornings or late nights?
yeah, right. Nah, not early morning. Definitely late nights.
I knew you were going to say that, but I was like, let me ask. Maybe I'll get surprised.
What early morning? No, no.
Okay. Physical books or ebooks?
Ebooks, ebooks, ebooks.
Okay. Grits with butter or grits with sugar?
What about no grits? I don't eat grits. Grits are
Okay.
nasty. I
Well, you
haven't
know
had
what?
grits since I was a kid.
Nasty. Uh,
Ew.
okay.
Oh, I
We're going to
know,
take this
I know.
conversation
I know we
offline,
gotta
but
take it offline. Yes.
Debbie gets a pass because if she did choose the correct answer is let me put it like this. The answer is never ever grits with sugar. This is a long-standing debate between grits lovers, grits with butter, or grits with sugar.
What about butter and
Grits with
sugar?
sugar is never ever the answer.
Butter
Ever.
and sugar.
No, no, absolutely
Okay.
not. I'm gonna take a hard stance on that. Absolutely not, Bevy. Absolutely not.
Okay.
We'll talk about that. I don't even want to get worked
Offline.
up.
I
Okay.
know you already are. I was like, you did it already.
I need Dr. Will Moreland here. He and I have this running gag. He likes grits with sugar. I like grits with butter, and it's never ending between us. So he would appreciate this part of the conversation right here. Dr. Will, I know you would choose sugar, and that's always the wrong answer. But anyway, okay, last question. What's your favorite smell? What's your favorite smell?
Smell? Ooh, I want to say red door perfume.
Okay. I've never
It's not,
smelled
it's
that.
not, it's not the norm, but it's the only perfume that I wear. And most people, when they smell it, what is that you're wearing? And it smells different on everybody. And everybody says red door is for old women, but I'm 60 years old, so call me old. But yes, it has to be red door. I can't think of anything. It could have been chocolate chip cookies, though. Oh man, I messed up.
Oh.
I messed up. I should have
You can
said
change
chocolate
your
chip cookies.
answer. You can change your
Okay.
answer. It's okay.
Yes, chocolate chip cookies and Mrs. Smith's apple pie.
Listen, both of those answers, I think, okay. The grits one, you have been redeemed. You are redeemed now, Betty. I agree
Thank
with you.
you.
Chocolate. You and I are both chocolate chip lovers.
Yeah.
We like baking
Hmm.
them at home. So that I agree with you.
Yes.
And I love apple pie. So
Hmm.
I'm gonna agree with you there as well. It's something about smelling cinnamon, that smell just wafting through the house, the apple pie. So
Yes.
I agree.
Yes.
I agree. Okay, Bevy, tell your audience too, in case they're not familiar with the other places, where can everybody find you at? I know you're on LinkedIn. If there's anywhere else, let us know.
No, right now, just LinkedIn. I'm on LinkedIn, and that's it for the moment.
Okay, and you are still accepting coaching clients, or do you have anything coming up soon that you want to share?
I'm accepting coaching clients, but I am looking to put together a group coaching program very soon. And until then, yes, I'm accepting clients every day.
Awesome. I as well am accepting new clients at this time. And if you would like to find out more, please visit my website, www.roquitajohnson.com. I will put it in the comments here. I know we're streaming to LinkedIn. I will put it in the comments so you can see it there. You can visit my website there and get more information. I am accepting new clients as well. So thank you so much, my dear friend and fellow certified world class speaking coach, for having this conversation with me. I knew you were the perfect person. She and I have both seen both sides of the game. She's coached clients, fellow Toastmasters who've gone on to top level wins. And I have competed in multiple contests, and I've made it to the top of the humorous contest for District 46. And competing truly is an amazing journey. Like they say, it's not just the result, the outcome, whether you win or lose. You will learn a lot about the process of competing and refining a speech and watching your speech change over time and trying to decide, how can I make this better? It's amazing, the journey. So I'm excited for everyone who's competing this year. Congratulations to everyone who makes it to the next level. And just for throwing yourself out there, period. Anybody who's a first-time competitor, I tip my hat to you. I am happy for you because it will really grow you. Competing will grow you in so many ways. So just keep going. And with that, I am going to end our discussion today, but please follow both of us if you are not yet. And thank you for being on with us today.
Thank you, Roquita.
Thank you, Bevy.